Yes, out of former Munina Quaba. Out of our platform, we as host Nana Aji, and I want to make a bone in Punim Punimistro, and a kind out of our platform, we as one hour once as my say. Subscribe to us for latest updates and behind notification, or send a newly upload beyond no about Richie was out of four. Serious and more serious and answer my attendee with Jit. Celebrities for the channel, and I'm going to be about this particular platform. So, far out, you do see out of four. When say Berla Mundi. Now one is a Amihere on it say Nana Bana Monum and a year Juma watch say GHOne TV. So another four on us now the reason why it's bonia on Unsumpono every water, Babbage Shim, a 70 bar, Bianson Bex and the demo. So I say what is Babbage Shim, a queer lady Simpono, added and Namso, and an in your home out of four because on a day where you're respected and a sound so free fee and no 18. You want to 7 minutes on your day, Emma.
My way, I was trying to figure out what to talk about. I had thought about a few things, but I needed to sort of put it in context. And I was trying to understand, okay, so when we talk about goals and growth, which aspect of my life do I need to talk about? And today, I'm going to talk about a part of my life that was very difficult for me, but that was what led me to what I've become today. And usually, I know on social media, or when we get to speak in public, we always talk about the nice things that happen in our lives. But we're human like everybody else. And so at the end of the day, we even face more challenges than anybody, especially because there's a lot of spotlight on us. And so people assume that things should be easy, but that's when the challenges become difficult. So I'll talk about the last parts of my journey at GHOne into TV3. And I want to use that to just let you understand that sometimes if you sit at one place, you're sitting on your blessing. And it's difficult to make that decision to eventually move, but that move is what brings the growth. But before you make that move, you should have a goal. Do you get how I'm connecting it? Okay. So, latter part of my days at GHOne, things had become very tough. I felt like I had grown to a certain limit, and the platform could not offer me what I wanted anymore. But I was afraid to make that bold step to leave. And that was because my whole journey as a broadcast journalist had started with GHOne when it was for Charterhouse and eventually when EIB bought it. So from the inception up until that point in my life, I felt like I owed the company, something, a favor, or my career. And so it was going to be very difficult for me to say finally that I'm done and I need to move. I was looking for a way to move because things had become very difficult. I just wasn't finding myself in that space anymore, be it relating with people, the work I was doing, because even before I started the show I was doing before I left, I was doing rhythms. And I always say that every time there needs to be a move, I just wake up, sit in my bed, and God tells me, my friend, it's time, write this down, and I do. And so I had just started the late afternoon show. Just 1 year into it, I had won an award. Then there's an opportunity for me to move, and I'm thinking, I fought so hard to have this show go on air. Because when I wanted it on air, my bosses said, I'm sorry, this is not going on air. We're not letting you leave your previous show because we're not sure we can find anybody to replace you. And so instead of creating a void, we'd rather you stay there and just plateau. I mean, they didn't say plateau, but they just said, we also couldn't find anybody who could do that job, so you might as well stay there. But I had interviewed everybody that mattered in the music industry, in the arts industry, and I was tired. Because a month later, the same person would come and I have to now think of what other question to ask, because I was recycling them over and over. So I told myself I was done with this and I needed a show that would challenge me. And I was done talking about music only and what are you doing, what's your album about. I just wanted something a bit more challenging. My bosses said no. I had to fight. I had to cry. There were guests who would walk into the building and they'll find me crying. And they're thinking, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, my bosses don't want me to start my new show. And it was all very upset because they just didn't understand the backstory of it. Now, eventually, I had people who helped me, and I started that show. A year into that show, I'm told, it's time to move again. And I'm telling God, but you just gave me this idea. So why do I have to move? And he says, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to move. Because I made you start this show for a reason. And that was supposed to prepare you for the next journey. I still didn't understand. So TV3 gets in touch with me. The first time, I want to move. I tell them, okay, I'll come. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you people, you're jokers. I'm not moving. So I accept, I sign a contract and everything. It's time for me to move, and then I have to tell them the bitter truth. I'm sorry, but I cannot make it. And it pissed everybody off, I'm sure, at TV3. They were very disappointed because they were just about ready to, put out the PR and say, so Berla is joining us. And this is me being so afraid to move. And so I got stuck in that space. For another 6...
Yes, therefore, not within semi or Candia. Now, which me said, and now, pan and one and it's a why here, crying says a manager. I fancy the Berla radio crown, not just some money can be cost me. What do say, your more margins or more channel. And now my baby appear, and I'm so you free no nimian sentinel. One yet, and if you are sending Nipasha see a town. So when you are down for Binam, or by Shas here every tower, or Cassa you win a 1 year, not just for one time. Now which me say, but Mundi idiot, or no free few, into now what class I left, or the swat as I young cotton your home fanny sicano. Now what, Sana will be a year Juma, or year Jumano, or my own found quite afraid that Bella Mundi did not travel into without as a Winston, as a big time exposed. I would also let it about one thing. I dare say, mammy, I a friend says, so I'm here, so I ask Antony. Now the 4 cockans assembly, I'm on your power when you're and what do you?
I'm here, boy, who own Asantini, Debbie, who owe your croboni, o mammy, a croboni, and o papa, a enzimani, yan for to be beer, o papa, or the wood to near bar. O mammy, the same name a tete, who owe your croboni, and o papa, a enzimani, or Belkumas ebedi pa. Obetina ang get Johnson, Minuba Pano Fundaka, and on Cherese or Yasantini. Asantini bien wo boy Jamai Agent Crofokunu et Serwaa here. The real war boy Jamai, Asantini bien wentino, and Fanning Guasewe, and the Frasantimine, ye nimo, o I Kumerican passport way. Serwaa here, Miss Kumerican passport away, one Yasantini, Uchi Kuranye, Uchi Yentino, ye was Santiman as saying Fanny Ko, O Papo Bedi Parke. Obedi pa obeye fundaka e wasante region eno no ntrese Serwaa mi wo ya santini enti so akobɔ adwaman ne atewa ekɔ radio so ka se wo ye kroboni bo krom enfere be proud of where you are from se wo ye kroboni opa na ye ezmani eno ti ne fro Amihere no opa pɔ de utu ni nua ba enti no embetena so me ya azan kwasea wakobɔ adwaman de aba be ka so ya santini Tama na uje ni monyam che papa ni eso so Serwaa mi na de no ka so ya santini you go back to mind us o bodam so asanti o ye ni mo me boss mi a me so ye kroboni asie na no no
you are asie na what me say yes wakobo adwama na ya chewe me kasa we ye kroboni na wonya kroboni ano eden so ware asie what me say adwama no na o kasa asantefo ne de o mo adwama na orafi afia so re kasa afia mpo ma me kasa because ono so e kasa o ya asanti ni pio
meso en fami nkonkoje kalipo Sena me send me bunko to you, a bunko to you. Me saw me patcho, Oh dear, me exchange bibim pa. Oh, the me exchange bibim pa. Miss Row. Oh, the me best exchange bibim pa. Oh, the family exchange Chanel bag got it. Patcho at it. Some young somewhat patcho. Famine could my you at it. Miss Row. Yam this so. Serwaa mpo ni ejineje fridge ade what me estate
yes other for us we incident sama AFS was nigga AK allegation manager water so about Bontania de adwuma ne nyina nso no we be see me do biara si be share bi makra mo baba